Today's guest is Wendy Lee Baldwin Hargett, who is a personal development coach, holistic healing facilitator, author, and speaker. What she specializes is helping spiritually minded women go from angst and despair to joy and vitality by turning their emotional pain story into their superpower. She provides a safe and loving space for clients to open their hearts, bare their souls, and let go of what's hurting. When she transformed her own pain story of anxiety, depression, alcohol abuse, and wanting to die into hope for others, showing them that they too can find the joy, peace, and self love that they yearn for. So, Wendy, thank you very much for being here today. How are you doing?
Thank you, Drasco. I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm definitely excited to have you here. And anytime we have like heart-centered entrepreneurs who do similar work in their own capacity as I do, I'm always excited about it because I firmly believe like good people need to make more money and more impact in the world if things are going to change. So I'm very happy to dive into these pieces with you. So what I'd love for you to do is, like, I know your bio alluded to a bunch of things that I've seen on the podcast many times, which is that sentiment of like my mess becomes my message. Like you've clearly gone through experiences that have given you the like in-depth knowledge and experience to do the work that you do. So I'd love for you to share and give us context on how that came to be. What's your story? Floor is yours for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, in brief, my story is I was born to a family. I was child number 3, which eventually became number 4, but I was put up for adoption as an infant. And I was given to my biological mother's sister and her husband to raise and to adopt. Then they divorced right away, like within the year and a half. And my new father kept me. He was a single father until I was about 7. And then when he remarried, that's when the real trauma started. First of all, I had a lot of birth trauma. I felt like I had this underlying theme my whole life that I was God's biggest mistake. And I felt like I had a lot of abandonment issues. And to add to that, when I was 10, I was sent to live in a religious commune by myself. My dad bought me a one-way ticket to go halfway across the United States. And I didn't know if I was ever going to see my family again. And that experience created a lot of PTSD. And it was actually when I was 10 years old, I tried to kill myself. Thankfully, I was not successful, obviously, but I went out to the woods, and my goal was to get lost and to never be found. And what I ended up doing instead is I went in circles. And so it's like, okay, fine. I can't even kill myself, right? So anyway, I did eventually get out of that living situation. But when I went home, I didn't know if I was wanted. When you're raised and when you spend any kind of time in that kind of an environment and a very structured cult-like environment, you become programmed and kind of brainwashed. And so I had a lot of unprogramming to do. And I just never really felt wanted, with the exception of I knew that my dad loved me, but there were a lot of issues with that. I mean, uh, basically, I mean, he chose his wife over me, and at a vulnerable age. And I did have a grandma, my paternal grandmother. When my dad first divorced, my grandma, bless her heart, went to the judge with my dad when he was given sole custody of me, and she promised to help take care of me. And my grandma was my anchor in this life. My grandma taught me unconditional love, and she was just there. She was my rock. She unfortunately died just right before I graduated from high school. And in my heart and my soul, she was my mother. So when she died, that was like losing my anchor to this world. That was like the one person I knew that I could go to. As an adult, well, actually, starting as I was about 15 years old was the first time that I got drunk, and I actually liked the feeling. And so that over time, that became my biggest coping mechanism because I had extreme anxiety, extreme depression. I was making myself physically sick, and I felt like I had no hope. And there were so many times that I questioned, if life was really worth living. And eventually, thankfully, I did get married and I had children, and they gave me a purpose. And I was raised in a, uh, other than being raised in or spending time in the religious commune for a while, my family was very religious. And I was taught that there was this guy in the sky that decided everything for us. He decided how much money we had, how healthy we could be, how happy we could be, and heaven forbid we weren't allowed to be too happy. And this deity had absolute control over our life. We didn't have any. And then I'll tell you, I watched the movie The Secret, which that changed a lot of people's lives. That changed my life because that was the first time that I felt that somebody gave me permission to be in charge of my own life. And I took that and ran with it. I jumped through that window and it's like, what else can I do? And that started to lead me on my path to healing. And what got me into the holistic healing part was, first of all, I ended up seeing a social worker for my mental state, which was absolutely terrifying. I had to tell my first husband, I'm messed up in the head. I need help. And so I did get brave enough. And, they talk about the 250-pound phone when you're in sales. It's like the heaviest phone to pick up. Well, that phone was at least 500 pounds, but I picked it up, dialed for help. And my social worker helped me to divorce, is what we call it, from my stepmother. And that was a huge leap forward in my healing. And then I ended up getting into the holistic healing part through I was doing copywriting for a while, and I actually met the person that introduced me to energy healing at that copywriting event. She was a presenter, and I was sitting in this room full of men because copywriting is a male-dominated field, and she said, "You're worthy." And it was all I could do to not bawl in front of all of these people. And we met afterwards and I just said, this is what's on my heart. And she worked with me and I cried and she was the first person to ever tell me that I was worthy of anything. And her being a holist into the holistic healing realm, she introduced me to some other people. And I had a lump on my thyroid. It was about the size of like your little finger on the horizontal. And I had two different doctors tell me I was fine. And I wasn't fine. Here I was sleeping 2 hours a day. I was gaining weight. I was really struggling to be a mother to my children. And I just said, I'm too young to feel this old. Well, I decided to take this leap of faith. It was very scary, but I called this holistic healer and worked with them, and I started to understand the body-mind connection. And within 6 weeks, the lump was gone. I was down 40 pounds, and I was hooked. And I said, this is like the coolest thing in the whole wide world. And then I went on my journey to do massive, massive healing. Um, it wasn't pretty and it wasn't easy and it was ugly at times. Eventually, I moved my family to Hawaii. We were there for 5 years. My daughter ended up being a teen mom, which thank God, because my granddaughter actually saved my life. I was got so depressed that we lived on the 23rd floor, and I would sit out on the lanai and contemplate jumping over the edge or going in front of a bus. And my granddaughter gave me, like I said, she gave me a reason to live. I was very depressed. I write about this in my book. I was very depressed. It was on Christmas, and she comes up and she crawls into bed with me, and she put her hand on my cheek, and it was like I got this message from the universe. It's like the most incredible love I've ever felt. I could have possibly felt at that time, that it's going to be okay. Just hang in there. And so I did. I hung in there, kept learning more about the self-healing, the holistic healing, healing myself. And what was interesting is when I first started my journey, more people started coming to me and noticing, it's like, hey, you're into doing this, help me too. And so that's how I got on my path. And it was very liberating. And I can honestly say to this, I'm at the point, thankfully, and I've been to this point for a while, that the suicidal tendencies are completely gone. Every single day I get up in just extreme gratitude that I am alive. And I no longer need alcohol. I did not let myself become, I say I didn't let myself become an addict because I knew that my birth father was an addict. And I would check in with myself and it's like, okay, can I live without this? And of course I could. And sometimes I would go long times without it, but it was just my choice, my numbing option, that and Cheetos and sugar. So I don't have those challenges anymore because I went and I healed my worthiness. I healed my heart, my soul, the abandonment issues. I no longer feel like God's biggest mistake. And it's just been, I see the past as a real blessing. And because I love helping people who have similar stories or something to relate to help them to find their path and know that they are worthy and they can have that peace and that relief as well.
Beautiful. So just before I comment on that, I felt like there was something that came up for you near the end. So I don't know if that was just a lapse in thinking, or was there something actually come up during that sharing?
Um, well, I feel like there was a little bit of a lapse when I was thinking about my granddaughter. Uh, seriously, and I've told my daughter many times that her daughter helped save my life because I felt like nobody cared. I seriously felt like nobody would miss me except for that child. So there was a little bit of a lapse I felt in my heart, but I don't know if that's when it came across for you.
Got it. No, it's totally fine. I was just more curious, and if it was relevant, great. If it was just you acknowledging, being grateful for that, I think that's equally beautiful. So first and foremost, thank you very much for sharing so openly such a vulnerable story, because I think it's one that I think, even as I told you before we started the recording, like I feel like even just reading your bio and things like that, yes, you did go through this extremely tumultuous time, but it's, to me, it resonates, that story of like, I on some level chose and had to go through this to learn the things that I need to learn that are now going to be put out into the world, and really have positive ripple effects as a result of that. It's really turning that negative into something that impacts much broader than just me, being the fullest and best version of me. So before I continue, does that resonate with you?
Absolutely, and I fully feel that I'm on earth at this time for a reason. And a part of that reason was going through all of that so that I can help people because I believe and feel that we're going through a consciousness shift. And there are a lot of people that are starting to wake up and they need somebody who understands what they are feeling. And I've been told by many people that I can understand what people are feeling, and even when they can't.
100%. I could totally see that being the thing. So yeah, 100% same wavelength. So I'd love to then segue into like having this vast experience that you do, in the vast healing that you've gone through, and the knowledge and everything that it takes to go through that. Tell me a little bit more about like, what is your business right now, and kind of what are the challenges you're experiencing within it?
My business right now is I lead a group on Facebook. I work with people one on one. I offer like one shot classes from time to time. I'm getting myself out there. My challenge is, like I've shared, privately, that I feel like every time I make really good momentum, something happens, and I'm just kind of like brought to my knees. I'm needed to divert somewhere else, and so I feel like I'm just constantly restarting. And right now, I'm on a really good momentum, connecting with a lot of people. I'm getting the message out there and just starting to become more known and to be totally vulnerable. Because yes, you're right. It's a little bit intimidating to be this vulnerable. I'm starting to feel a little bit scared because it's like, okay, things are going really well, and my of course, my critter brain, my monkey brain is going, okay, what could happen now? This could happen. This could happen. What about this? What about that? And it's like, okay, I don't want to go there. But based on my experience, it's like, do I need to be prepared? So I would really love to shift that however much as possible.
So there's almost like I'm preemptively worrying that this is going to crash.
Yes, this is the first time I've had that. Yes, and so, yeah.
And so what do you mean this is the first? Because you said this was a pattern
Yes,
of,
this yeah,
so yeah,
this is the
tell me more
first
about that.
that's I'm sorry, this is the first time I've had that fear. I've had that fear
Okay,
come in.
got it. So the past pattern was, okay, so I start to make momentum, something happens, diverts my energy, I gotta go deal with that, then I come back, repeat the same cycle again and again. Now it seems like there's been a shift in terms of consciousness or how you're looking at it, or your awareness of the pattern, where you're in the thick of the momentum picking up, and because of past experiences, now it's like, ooh, well, now I'm really scared because things are good, therefore I'm trouble is just around the corner. Like, is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate.
Okay, perfect. So before we dive deeper into that, I really just like to go and get a little bit more specific on, like, okay, well, what does that look like? Because I have an idea in my head of, like, okay, what does it mean to pick up momentum? But I want to make sure that I understand your experience of it. So when you are looking at your business
Mhm.
and you're picking up momentum and then something crashes, like, what does that actually look like, as far as, like, if you had to draw a comic book of it, like, what would it look like?
It look well, the everything, it was just like an explosion for things going off. Um, with the good part of it, like with business doing well, it's, like I'm getting my group is growing, my emails is growing, I'm getting out there, I'm on a lot of podcasts, I'm doing like a book fair. I was just, I'm online again this week. I was on last week being visible. And then it's just, yeah, it's just like this big explosion or the rug being ripped out from underneath me.
Okay, so the positive momentum is really getting out there and being visible, right? Like you mentioned
Yes.
the podcast, you mentioned something like in person. I think you mentioned like book fair. Like, I'm just getting my message out
Mhm.
there. I'm talking to a bunch of people. People are getting onto my email list, etc. Okay,
Mm,
so that's
correct.
accurate.
Yes,
Okay,
that is accurate.
and is that leading to, like, more business, or it's just I'm building the momentum that I know is going to lead towards more business?
A bit of both.
Okay, perfect. So there is some pickup in the business as well.
Correct.
Okay. And is there a particular ceiling as far as the business is concerned, that, like, usually, like, I will never pass this point? And you don't have to get specifics in terms of number, but, like, if there's, like, what's the pattern as far as that?
It's just when I start feeling really comfortable and really positive and really secure in what I'm doing, just feeling good about marketing, feeling good about life.
Okay. So feeling good about marketing, feeling good about life, and there are certain instances where that's reflected back as far as businesses coming in.
Correct.
Okay. And how long does that cycle usually last?
Not very long. There's not a set pattern, but I would say um, it could go from, a year or more or less. It's just not like a set pattern.
Okay. So a year, let's just say, I guess maybe 12 months, as far as, like, how much this can go. Like, would that be, like, does that resonate with you or not?
Well, it does, just because there are a couple things that happened just this year, and I had to, overcome a really bad car accident. And so once I was able, because I had a mild concussion, and so once you get your brain back, then you can get back to work. And so it's like, okay, it's like 6 months approximately since that has happened. So it's almost like, I mean, and things are going faster. Things are developing faster, and so
Got it. Okay.
yeah.
So to just make sure that I'm solidifying my understanding of it. So generally, cycles anywhere from like 3, 6, 12 months of, like, something's going good, and then something happens, like a car crash. And then this is usually the pattern that occurs every time.
Well, thankfully, the car crash is not a pattern, but, we're just
Of course, yes. But it could be
for
something, like you said, it was an emergency with family, something else happened, there's an unexpected expense, like something along those lines?
yes, and they tend to be long-term. Like it's taking care of another family member. For example, for 2021, that entire year was me taking care of my dad. I saved my dad's life and I had to live with my dad for a while. It was nonstop doctor's appointments and just got my dad under control, got him some care. And I was really excited about 2022 being a fresh start because I said, I've dedicated this entire year to someone else. It's about me now. And I hired a business coach to work with for 6 months, which was wonderful. Just got started in that. And I got sick for a couple of weeks. My husband brought home a really bad virus and then got recovered from that, got in a car accident, recovered from that. And so it's always been something really big and has taken a while to recover from, bounce back from.
Got it. And if you had to zoom out a little bit, what do you think this says about you?
I would say that I give up myself for other people, for one thing, because I can think of 4 people that I have put before myself to take care of them because they were in an emergency situation.
Anything else?
That's the main thing that's coming to mind.
Okay. And what about in terms of the instances like the car crash or getting sick?
Getting sick, I just couldn't fight the virus anymore. I held it off as long as I could. Um, the car crash was a really crazy day because my dad needed me, my son needed me. There were 2 different directions, and so I was trying to accommodate both people on the same day, and I didn't get to serve either one of them because I
So
got in the
I'm just gonna
wreck.
pause you right there, right? Because like those are relevant details as far as the happening, like the circumstantial happening of it. Um, the original question that kind of started this off was just zooming out, hypothetically speaking, right? These types of patterns, what do you think they mean about you? Right. So when it came to emergencies dealing with other people, like you have a lot of awareness around that. I give up myself for others. I'm always putting their needs over it, like over my own. What about like what meaning can you derive from things that have nothing to do with other people, like the car crash, like getting sick? That's kind of all on you in quotes.
I don't know. My mind is just kinda a little bit, um, what does it say about me? I don't know, maybe that I need to take care of myself first? Is that what you're asking?
Whatever is relevant to you is relevant to you. There's no right or wrong answer here. What feels most accurate? If nothing, that's fine as well.
Okay. I'm really getting mostly a big blank, to be honest.
Hmm. Perfect. So, with that question, like, what does this mean about me? What do you feel inside of your body?
Some numbness and some emotion that I don't know what it is.
Okay. Are you open to diving into exploring what that emotion might be?
Yes.
Okay. So, what feels more relevant in this moment right now? The numbness or the unfamiliar emotion?
The unfamiliar emotion.
Okay. Where do you feel that emotion in your body?
My throat.
Okay. And what exactly do you feel in your throat?
I feel a tightness. My head was buzzing a little bit ago, so it's kinda like it's moved from my head down to my throat. It just feels constrictive,
Mm,
dry,
okay, yeah,
um, like it's afraid to come up.
okay, good awareness. Anything else?
Not right now.
Okay. And if you had to tune into that part in your throat, the one that's tight, that's constrictive, that's dry, that's afraid to come up, if that part could speak, what might it say?
There's a lot of sadness.
Okay. And what might that sadness say?
It says, "I just want life to be about me."
Okay. What do you think that means?
I think it means that I've spent so much time and energy taking care of other people that I neglect myself.
And how does that make you feel?
Well, it's, something that I'm in the process of learning to do.
Okay. So the question was, how does that make you feel? Right. And your brain went to, what am I doing about it?
Right. It's kinda scary
To do what?
because it to put myself first
Okay. And what's coming up
because
for you right now?
just wanting to be loved, wanting to give people the love and protection that I never had. Sorry.
Okay. Absolutely nothing to apologize about. You're definitely not the first person to cry and let emotion out on this podcast. You certainly won't be the last. And I just want to acknowledge you for your willingness and courage to show up in this way, right? To allow others, myself, the listeners, to hold the space for you, right? To process what you need to process, all of the work that you do for others, to take the courageous step and get into a space where now that space is for you, right? So, what comes up for you when I share that?
Well, I really appreciate that very much. Yes, I feel like I want to protect people. That's what it is. I want to protect people because I was not protected. And so it feels good to, I know this is public, but it's also a safe space to be vulnerable. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And are you okay if we dive a bit deeper into those aspects of it? I want to protect people and all of that.
Yes. I just
Okay.
need to take a drink of water.
Absolutely. Yeah. No worries. So the sentiment of I want to protect people. I want to give them what I never had. Okay. That resonates with you as accurate.
Yes.
Okay. Why do you want to do that for people?
I just feel that that's what we're supposed to do is to protect each other, to look
And
out for each other, to help each other.
agreed. And who's doing that for you?
Me?
Are you doing it to the degree that actually satisfies your needs?
It's a process. If I were to say 100%, Not 100% just yet.
Okay. So your motivation, your actions, your worldview, your intentions, they're all centered around protecting other people, making sure that they're loved, giving people love. Yet, the one person you're always neglecting to one degree or another, some days more, some days less, is yourself.
Correct.
Are you really able to fulfill that motivation of protecting and loving others if you don't protect and love yourself?
Well, I know that it does start with self. I've been working diligently, the best that I know how, to love and protect myself. It's actually something that I learned from the business coach I hired, was all about self-care and self-love and boundaries, and so it's been a process, but yeah, you're right, it absolutely starts with me.
Correct. And the fact that it's scary, like it feels fearful, right? My voice shuts down, right? My throat locks up. I can't express myself because it's scary to express myself. To me, that signifies that there's still work to be done here. And I'm not saying that in a
Mhm.
judgmental way by any means. It's just that's what's coming up,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, because growing up, it was not safe for me to speak my voice. I had to be quiet. Children were to be seen and to be heard. I wasn't allowed to express anything other than being happy. So it's been a long process of unpacking all of that and just learning to speak my voice and to know that it's safe to do so.
correct. And zooming out a little bit, kind of bringing it back to what we started these conversations with, right? When I asked you, okay, things are going okay now,
Mhm.
what does that look like? Well, they're going well in terms of I'm being more visible, i.e., I am doing things where I go out, I express myself, I express my message, right?
Correct.
So the very thing, well, A, I commend you for stepping into where you are scared to go, but on a deeper spiritual level, right? I am scared to put myself first. I'm scared to express myself. As soon as I start making momentum in expressing myself, what happens? Something comes in to either crash that, so like getting sick, getting into an actual car crash, or other aspects of me that don't allow me to put myself first, they're scared of that, start to pull me back in, right? It's like that there's this energetic anchor to keep you from really expressing to the next level. So does any of
Yes,
that resonate with you?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
What
And
lands for you?
I'm sorry.
Like what lands for you out of that?
Oh, well, what's coming to me is there is a part of me that was still afraid to be me
Let's tell me more about
and
that.
and to be seen as me because I'm different than most people. When we're in this realm, we're different than the average person. I've always felt different. It was never really okay to be different. So
And if you were to zoom out from that, like what actions do you take from that space inside of your business?
sometimes I guess you could say that sometimes I just don't give it my all.
Okay. So what do you mean like if you could be more specific, what do you mean about that?
I can be easily persuaded to do something else instead of focusing on my business.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Well, if I get an opportunity to go play with one of my grandkids, I'd rather do that.
Okay.
Or hang out with my daughter or something. Yeah, let's go do that. That'll be more fun.
Okay. So there's a level of avoiding and distracting away from the business.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay. I can be easily persuaded to go do something else, right? That's the pleasant end of the spectrum of avoidance or distraction. The less pleasant or the painful end of that spectrum is, well, something crashes and keeps me away from doing my all,
Yes.
right? Somebody's emergency comes into play. So
Yes.
great, here I am going to be the protector and the savior. Now I can go and deal with that,
Yes.
right? So you see how like that now begins to line up.
Yes.
So if the priority is my business and I don't actually make it a priority in terms of what I think, feel, and act, and yes, you mentioned boundaries, you mentioned all those things. Do you see how those actions work against you at the expense of you for other people?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what are the results of all of that business wise?
What are the results of that? Well, I'm serving fewer people.
So you're serving what?
Fewer people, I'm not
Okay.
getting out there, getting the message out there.
Okay.
And on the financial end, of course, that plays a role.
So how would you verbalize that?
Oh, just not I'm leaving money on the table.
Okay. So going back to not fulfilling your own needs, right? Like not filling your own cup, not receiving,
Yes.
right? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So what's coming up for you there?
You're really good at this. Huh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's landing for you when I reflect that back?
Oh, no, it's like, yeah, I hadn't even thought of it like that before, so, yes.
Okay. So I know I keep like poking and prodding, but if you're okay with it, to just elaborate more on that, because I believe words are very important because they illustrate the crystallization or expression of an experience. So in this instance, I never thought of it that way, that I'm leaving money on the table is the same pattern that I have with people. So like just break that down for me in your own words.
Leaving money on the table, is stopping me from being to the level of financial independence that I desire. It's, not allowing me to, be as charitable as I would like to be. I would love to be able to give tens of thousands of dollars to a children's organization, and I haven't been able to do that. I would love to financially be able to if I had, significant lot more money, I would give most of it away just to, like, help me, my family. I mean, I'd make sure I had enough for myself first. But I like to give. I think it's fun.
It could be, absolutely. And by all means, like your dreams are your dreams. What I'm about to say has nothing to do with that. You get to want what you want. What I just want to throw out to you as an observation is, even when considering a vision, even when considering a dream, where your system and your brain defaults to is like, how can I give away as much of like my receiving as possible? Right?
Okay.
It's a
Yes.
beautiful thing to be charitable, to want to give, to contribute 110%. However, like the excitement is almost like, oh my God, like I would just love to give it all away. Like, give me more so I can just give it away. Right.
Yes.
So I only point that out because all of the previous patterns were about, how do I give my energy? How do I give my time? How do I give my action? How do I give my focus to anything other than myself?
Mm.
Right. So what's landing for you when I reflect that back?
I never would have thought of it like that.
Okay.
I'm gonna really let that sink in. Yeah, that was good.
Okay. And if you had to tune into it now, what's coming up?
Mm. I need to keep more for myself and focus on myself first in that area, in the financial area as well. Oh, yeah.
Correct. Like right now, your financial area is perfectly reflective of your decision and embodiment of actually receiving.
Mm. Yeah. Yes. And what comes to me is I have a challenge with that.
Yeah. It's okay. What's coming up with that reflection?
What's coming up is the mantra, it's better to give than to receive.
Yep. You're living that perfectly.
Yes, I am.
So you see how there is this broad collection of thoughts, stories, narratives, limiting beliefs, right? All centered around optimizing my life to receive as little as possible, to ask and express as little as I can, and to create both consciously and unconsciously as many situations in my life where I can find value and significance out of giving rather than receiving.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see how that circles back around to as soon as I begin to make any sort of momentum, I freak out because it's better to give than to receive. And if I am creating momentum and success for myself, I'm at the fear of actually receiving.
Yes.
Okay. And again, what's coming up for you when that?
Just I had no idea that was in there, so thank you. I yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. And just to kind of bring it back around, because you shared a lot at the beginning, and I think a lot of these same types of patterns have shown up in other areas of your life, like you mentioned, like healing the addictions, like that's no longer an issue, feeling like I was a mistake and unworthiness, etc. I think you've done a lot of work to make peace and heal those contexts of these particular things. Now they are showing up in your business. And the
Yes.
biggest limiting factor for your business expansion is your view of yourself and all of these other things that are certainly justified. Like how you got to here is how you got to here, and it makes sense. But now your business and your specifically your finances are perfectly reflective of your self identity in this aspect.
Yes.
So I know we kind of went all over the place. I know it brought up a lot of different things, but does that feel complete for you, or is there still something left outstanding?
Um, that actually feels pretty complete. You did amazing. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and thank you for showing up because I can only be as good as how deep you're willing to go. So thank you very much. To then just begin to close us off, if you can summarize in your own words, like what did you come into this conversation thinking was the issue, and then what was kind of like your breakthrough or aha as a result of the conversation?
I really wasn't sure what my issue is. I had a feeling it might be something about me, focusing on other people. I didn't realize how deep it was. I did know that today was going to be big though, because I was really scared. And I know from being in the hot seat, going through healing, that whenever you feel really scared, it means you're going to have a really big breakthrough, and you just got to push through the fear. So my biggest aha was that last part when it came up of that memory. It was so ingrained in me. It's better to give than to receive, and how that is playing out in my, not only my personal life but my business life. That was really big. All of it was big, but that was probably the biggest surprise.
Yeah.
And with a mindset of it's better to give than receive, yeah, I'm just going to keep repeating this cycle for sure. Because I can do all of the boundary stuff and setting up to where, no, I can't take care of you. But that underlying part, that subconscious part, which we know is a part that runs us, that was massive. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And then you can just close us off and let everybody know, who's the best person to find you, where can they find you? Floor is yours for that.
Oh, thank you. People can find me on my website, which is alignwithjoy.com. I have different free articles and downloads on there. I also have a Facebook group. It's called the Align with Joy Circle. I go live every week. I'm very big about talking about emotions and breaking free. And those are the two best places to reach out to me, be in contact.
Beautiful. Well,
And
as always, yep, sir, go
oh,
ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I just really quick, if anybody's interested, I do have my book, Healing Your Soul in a Chaotic World: Defying the Odds of Sanity and Survival by Wendy Lee Baldwin, which is available on Amazon. It's my story of transformation. I take the readers through what I'm going through every step of the way. And in the back is a self-help book so that people can start their healing process.
Beautiful. Well, we'll definitely include all of those in the show notes. Thank you very much for coming on. And if there's anything else left that you wish to share, floor is yours for that as well.
Thank you. Well, I must say this has been the first podcast I've ever cried on, and hopefully it's the last.
I think, yeah, you're not the only one that has happened to. So yeah,
Uh,
that's fair.
but,
You should include
yes,
that in the description as well.
yeah. Well, thank you, because that's how you know that you get to the heart and the soul of the matter. And as the holistic healer, when people come to me, I love it when I make them cry, because it means that they've had a really big breakthrough, and so it's a good thing. So
100% agreed. And yes, I know it's always more fun on this end of
yes, it is.
yeah. So I get it. I've been on both many a times, but yeah, it's funner on this side. So
Yes. Uh,
all right. Well, Wendy, thank you very much for your presence and your sharing. And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much, Jasco.